I just want to make some introductions. So in the room, we have Ravi Basavappa. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ravi Basavappa. I'm the program leader for the HR program, which includes the new Innovator Award program.
I'm Becky Miller. I'm a program officer for the Early Independence Award, so not this one, but I also help with other aspects of the HR program.
I'm Eli Murcia. I'm a program specialist, and you get emails from me when there are new funding opportunities in the Common Fund.
I am Lyle Tomlinson. I'm the communications team member for the High Risk High Reward programs. So you'll probably either be getting emails from me if you join our family, or you'll be sending me emails about the amazing, wonderful publications that you've done, and I'll be posting these.
I'm Srikanth Ramanathan. I'm from the Center for Scientific Review. I'm the scientific review officer and part of the review team. So your applications will be received by Center for Scientific Review, and we will do the assignments to the reviewers, and you'll hear more about it shortly.
Great. Thank you. All right, so first off, we're going to start with just some brief presentations from Ravi and Srikanth to give you an overview of the New Innovator Award and the review process. And then after that, we'll go ahead and just dive into the questions that we have received. So, Ravi.
Okay, thank you, Becky, and thanks to all of you for joining the webinar today. So first, a brief overview of the High Risk High Reward Research Program, or the HR Research Program, which is part of the Common Fund, which is in the Office of the Director. There are 4 constituent programs within the HR program. They are, as shown, the Pioneer Award, the New Innovator Award, the Transformative Research Award, and the Early Independence Award. So briefly, the Pioneer Award was started in 2004. It's open to people at all career stages. It seeks to support exceptional scientists who have a track record of doing really highly innovative work in the past, but who, going forward, propose something that's really bold with the potential for broad impact. The level of funding is pretty generous at $700,000 in direct costs per year, so people can go after pretty ambitious ideas, and it's single PI applications only. The New Innovator Award program was started in 2007. In spirit, it's very similar to the Pioneer Award program in that it seeks to support exceptional scientists, but in this case, the program is limited to early career stage investigators. Early career stage investigators are defined as those individuals who are within 10 years of receipt of their PhD or terminal research degree, or completion of their clinical training, and who have not yet received substantial NIH support. The New Innovator Award is also single PI applications only, and the level of funding is $1.5 million over a 5-year project period. The Transformative Research Award program was started in 2009. Unlike the Pioneer Award and the New Innovator Award programs, the Transformative Research Award program allows single PI as well as multi-PI applications. And unlike the Pioneer Award and New Innovator Awards, which have fixed budgets, the budget is very flexible for the Transformative Research Award program. You can request a budget that is commensurate with the scope of what you're proposing. So it can be $250,000 or $2 million in direct costs per year. The Early Independence Award program, the first awards were made in 2011, and this is also a person-focused award like the Pioneer Award and the Innovator Award. But in this case, it seeks to support those individuals who wish to skip the postdoc to forego the usual fellowship training period that follows a PhD, or extended training after receipt of the terminal research degree or after clinical training. And the level of budget is $250,000 in direct costs per year. So we have annual funding. We've had annual funding opportunities for each of these programs since their inception, and we hope to continue that tradition. A commonality among all these programs is that they seek to support researchers pursuing high-risk, high-impact ideas. Now, these are ideas that would not fare well in conventional R01 review, not only because they don't have much preliminary data, but perhaps because they challenge established paradigms, or all the details have not been worked out yet. But if successful, such ideas would have huge impact on the field. Common to all the programs is that no preliminary data are required. This is really true. Some people may be skeptical, but we've had plenty of examples of people providing no data successfully in their applications. However, most people do provide some data in their applications just to perhaps give a glimmer of hope that whatever they're proposing can actually be achieved. We also try to educate the reviewers that they should not expect substantial preliminary data. We welcome topics that are any topic that's relevant to the broad mission of NIH. People may go on our websites and see which particular areas have been funded so far. And if they don't see their particular area, the science area X, then they may be discouraged for some reason and not apply, and that may be perpetuating. But we really do welcome applications in all scientific areas, and we actually strengthened our language in the FOAs to encourage people from diverse scientific areas to apply, from basic biomedical research, clinical, translational, as well as behavioral social science research, and mathematical computational sciences, also sometimes known as the formal sciences. So any idea. So when you look at it and considering whether or not you should apply, the question you should not ask is, well, have people in my area been funded before, but just is my area relevant to the broad mission of NIH? Before we proceed, I would like to acknowledge the working group that helps to implement the high-risk, high-reward program across NIH. The HR program is a large and complex program with many moving parts, and to help make this HR machine work requires the input and participation of many people across NIH. We have participation from almost all the institutes at NIH, and they help make sure that the HR policies are implemented uniformly across NIH, and also provide important feedback in determining the policies and procedures for the HR program. Okay, so now some details about the new Innovator Award program. As I said earlier, it seeks to support unusually creative early career stage investigators who are proposing innovative, high-impact research. It was started in 2007 when Dr. Zerhouni was still NIH director. I mentioned the definition of an early stage investigator, but again, it's an individual who is within 10 years of receipt of the doctoral degree or completion of clinical training and who has not yet received substantial NIH support, such as an R01. We have a list of NIH awards that don't disqualify one from early career stage status on the NIH website. Awardees are also expected to commit a minimum of 25% research effort. No preliminary data are required, something that's common among all the HR programs. The awards are $1.5 million, but a very unusual feature of funding for the new Innovator Award program is that all the money is given in the first year of the project period. So you're given $1.5 million in direct cost to spend over pretty much a 5-year project period. It provides some flexibilities which can be useful, especially for early career stage investigators, in that if one wants to, in the first year, buy a lot of capital equipment, he or she is able to do so. Or if the awardee wants to ramp up the research program more slowly by adding personnel later in the project period, one is able to do that as well. So that's an advantage. A disadvantage, though, that you should keep in mind if you do receive an award is that since it's multi-year funded, all the money must be spent within the project period. The project period typically ends by at the end of May or end of June of the 5th fiscal year, no cost extensions are not allowed. So this means that if you don't spend all the money by the end of the project period, the money goes back to the treasury. So please, if you get one, please do make sure that you spend all the money. The application is very different from the standard R01, especially the R01 that was in use at the time the program was started. The research strategy component is 10 pages long. When the program was started in 2007, the corresponding research strategy component in the R01 was 25 pages long, so this is less than half of what was in the standard length. The format of this research strategy is also very different from the standard R01 in that it's more like an essay, pretty much a vision statement of what the individual wants to, the individual is proposing, why it's important, rather than the typical R01 format. Here, we ask, although it's an essay, we ask the applicant to focus on ideas on items of programmatic interest, particularly what is a scientific problem, why is it significant, and what is the potential impact if you actually succeed in what you're proposing. You're also asked to address explicitly why what you're proposing is innovative. You're asked to address what are the risks and the challenges and how they will be addressed. After all, this is high-risk research. There's a separate explicit item on suitability for the award. Why do you think what you're proposing really is suited or well-aligned with the spirit of the new Innovator Award Program, and why it is not suitable for more conventional mechanisms of funding, such as the R01. You're also asked to address your qualifications for pursuing the research, not only whether you have the scientific expertise to pursue the proposed research, but also whether you have a track record of pursuing the kind of research that you're proposing in terms of riskiness, whether you have you should be able to document that you have a track record, even at your early career stage, of really being innovative, having outside-the-box ideas, so to speak, that you have been able to overcome substantial conceptual and technical hurdles in the past, that you have been bold enough to challenge paradigms and establish new paradigms. There is no detailed budget, although the annual average is more than $250,000. We don't ask for any detailed budget information in the application. We just ask you to indicate that you want $1.5 million. We don't ask any questions after that, and that's $1.5 million is only for direct cost. Indirect costs will be added later when an award is to be made. The other information we do ask, brief other aspects of the application that for which we require brief information are animal and human subjects, if you're going to use those. We try to educate the reviewers not to expect the same level of human or animal subject detail that they might expect for a standard R01, again, because we don't expect the applicants to have worked out all the details. But still, the applicants must have a good sense of, a reasonable sense of, for example, how many subjects they will need, that they've considered some sort of power analysis, and that they will include sex as a biological variable in NIH standard policy. So you should be sure, if you're using human or animal subjects, that you will use sex as a biological variable and indicate that in your essay. Letters of collaboration are not allowed. This is a program that's very much focused on the qualifications of the PI, so letters of collaboration are not allowed. You're allowed to include names of collaborators in your essay, but we do not accept bias sketches from anyone else other than the PI. Research effort, again, only 25%, at least 25% research effort. Letters of reference are not allowed. Two programs in the HR program do require letters of reference, the Pioneer Awards and the Early Independence Awards, but the New Innovator Award Program does not allow letters of reference. So with that, I will hand it over to Srikanth.
Hello. So I'm going to go over the review process of what happens once you submit your application. It does not enter a black hole. Things do happen. So once you come up with your idea, submit your application on grants.gov. The receipt date, for example, this year is August 26th. I just put a generate late August, but it's August 26th this year. And it goes, the whole review process, a two-stage review process. The stage one comprises of male reviewers. These are reviewers recruited across all scientific areas that are represented in all of the applications that are received. So once the main review process is completed, the finalists are selected based on the preliminary scores and by the stage two editorial panel members. So the editorial panel members are an independent panel or a panel independent of the main reviewers. So people who are represented on stage one are not represented on stage two panel. So once the finalists are selected, those applications are then reviewed by the second stage editorial panel. So they basically use the stage one critiques that are provided to them and make their assessment. Once that meeting is completed, it's handed over to the program side. The Council of Council meeting is held in May, and the final selection of awardees and the announcements are done by late fall or early fall. One thing I do want to mention related to what Ravi talked about with respect to application details, rigor and, as he mentioned, rigor and transparency, understand the NIH policies on rigor and transparency. Please do adhere to those aspects in your application because those are points that the reviewers will assess. Things like level of statistical analysis, power analysis when you're using animal and human subjects, use the different headings under animal protection, for example, justification for the use of the animals, and distress, how you intend looking at any distress associated with the animal. So please understand the NIH policies on these aspects and adhere to them. So all the applications, this is a question that I receive every single year in good number that I do respond to each one of them. All applications are assigned to one panel, and that one panel is represented by Musculoskeletal, Oral, and Skin Sciences, IRG. IRG is Integrated Review Group within the Center of Scientific Review. So you will see that all your applications come to MOS IRG. So when you see MOS, even though your application has nothing to do with musculoskeletal, oral, and skin sciences, do not panic. It's in the right place, and the right actions will be taken. So the next step after we receive the applications is doing the administrative review. We check for completeness, compliance, and whether you are ESI eligible. If we find that you are not ESI eligible, you will receive an email from me to check on that with respect to your profile. So it's a good practice to check your profile and make sure that you're ESI eligible before you submit your application. It just saves time on various fronts. Then the applications are grouped based on the science areas that you all have identified in your application. And the conflicts from the application, both institutional and any collaborative conflicts, are entered into the system. So what that means is reviewers from, for example, from your institution would not be assigned to your application. The recruitment of male reviewers would be completed by that time, and assignments would be made based on the scientific area of expertise. So I'm going to reiterate that last point of the slide, which is the male reviewers who are all recruited would be matched with the science that is represented in each of the applications. 3 reviewers are assigned to each application, and they will be assessing based on 3 criteria. The 3 criteria are importance and potential impact of scientific problem. The second is novelty and innovativeness of approach, how well you have brought that out in your application and stated whether the innovation is technological or conceptual, any type of innovation. And the third aspect is you, how well you state why you are the most creative ESI to be accepted in the program. And then they will also provide an overall impact paragraph. So they will provide 3 scores and also the overall impact score. And the scoring is the NIH scoring system of 1 to 9, 1 being the best, 9 being the poorest. The next is the selection of finalists. Again, that's based on rank ordering of the male reviewers' overall impact scores. And there will be a selection by the editorial panelists of the top 20% of the applications that will move on to stage 2. The rest of the applications will be remained as non-discussed. So the final stage is the stage 2 editorial review. Once those applications, the finalists are selected based on overall impact and the scores, the editorial panel comprises of 26 to 27 panelists who are all experts in various fields. Again, these panelists are selected to cover all the science areas that are represented in the DP2 program. These are all senior members and experts who have a very broad scientific understanding, even to the point of a big picture of what is proposed. Each application, again, is assigned to 3 discussants, and all applications that move to the second stage are all discussed. So about 20% of the applications remain discussed. Scoring here is also focused on impact and innovation, and they will be providing an overall impact statement and an impact score. What you will get are the final scores, not immediately after not a minute after the meeting, but maybe few days. Give it a couple of days and you will see your scores, and give it a month and you will see your summary statements. So you will not receive summary statements before 30 days after the second stage meeting. You can email me asking for the summary statements, but unfortunately you will not receive it until then. That's just NIH policy. So the final thing that I do want to mention is the discussed summary statements will contain the second stage impact statements with the resume and summary of discussion that I will be gathering from the panel discussion. And the non-discussed summary statements will contain only the first stage critiques. Before the review, during the review, you're welcome to contact me at any point in time, or the other person who had run this program in the past as a SRO was Rajiv Kumar, who's the chief of the MOS IRG. So you can contact either one of us at the emails, and you will receive a response to every email you send. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentations and overview. Are we receiving a lot of questions?
Yeah, there are a lot of questions there.
All right. So we've tried to break out the questions that we had received before into different topics. And so what we'll try to do is go through the different topic headings, and I guess hopefully, poor Lyle, we'll have to, as you get questions in about that fit in those areas, maybe you can just go ahead and interject. But now we're just going to go ahead and go through some of the questions that we have received or commonly receive. All right. So, well, I can just go through the
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
Okay, I'll ask the questions. Becky, what is an early stage investigator?
Yeah, so early stage investigators are defined by the NIH as investigators who are within 10 years of receiving their terminal doctoral degree or completing your clinical training, and you have not yet been awarded a substantial NIH grant like an R01 or an R01 equivalent. And as Robbie said, there is a website, a page that lists all the different grants that do not impact your early stage investigator status. So if you have a lesser known award, you're welcome to go onto that site, look at that list, and see if it disqualifies you from early stage investigator status.
So some awards that don't disqualify you include an R21, R03, K99, R00, Ks, and Fs. Becky, can I extend my early stage investigator status?
Yes, you can. Once again, you would need to go to this website that talks about early stage investigator status. It also has on there situations and conditions that may make you eligible for an extension on your early investigator status. So if there's been a lapse in your research during that 10-year period after receiving your terminal research degree or completing your clinical training, then the NIH will consider requests to extend your status. These can be reasons such as medical concerns, disability, active duty military service, family care responsibilities, additional clinical training issues. So you can go ahead and submit a request, but each request is considered on a case-by-case basis. And just remember that extensions can take several weeks to process. So if you need an extension in order to apply for a grant or the new innovator, make sure that you get that done as soon as possible, because it can take quite a while for that to be granted.
Interesting, thank you. Am I still eligible if I've had a K or F award?
Yes, so once again, you can go to that website that lists all the different grants and awards that do not disqualify you from your early stage investigator status, and you will see on there that Ks and Fs are not considered R01 equivalents, and so therefore you would still retain your early stage investigator status.
What is an independent research position?
Yes, so so the new innovator award requires that you be in an independent research position at the time the award is made. That's a position that would automatically confer eligibility based on institutional policy for you as an investigator to apply for R01 grants. And what it's saying is that the institution is committing resources, facilities, those types of things that are necessary for you to conduct the proposed research. So we cannot give you an award unless you actually have a place that you can conduct the research. So, so we require that you have an independent research position by the time the award is made.
Are postdocs eligible to apply?
Yes, postdocs can apply, but once again, you have to have an independent research position in place by September of 2020. So because applications are submitted by an institution on behalf of the applicant, then that's so that we know that you have a place to conduct research. You'll actually will need to have some sort of discussion with an institution about whether or not you can actually have space for you or will provide you with the resources needed to conduct the research. So that has to be done in advancement anyway before submitting your application. But that being said, you really need to contact the institution where you will be conducting the proposed research and work through things to make sure that you have a position, independent research position available, and that you have the guarantee of the resources and facilities to conduct the research.
Great. Am I still eligible if I'm awarded an NIH R01 grant after submitting my NIH Director's New Innovator Award application, but before awards are made?
No. So in order to receive the New Innovator Award, you cannot receive an NIH R01 or equivalent award before the New Innovator Award is made. So if you have submitted an R01 application and it's awarded while the New Innovator Award is still pending, then you would automatically be disqualified and you could not receive the New Innovator Award.
Am I still eligible if I have early career stage investigator status and have an R01 application pending?
Yes, so if the New Innovator Award is made and you still have other R01 or other grants pending, that's fine. But just remember that we follow NIH policy where you cannot submit the same idea or the same project to different funding opportunities at the same time. That's prohibited. So if you're going to submit the same idea, you have to wait until that first round of reviews is done and you receive your summary statement in hand, and then you can submit the idea again once you receive that summary statement.
They can't be overlapping.
Yeah, they can't be overlapping. Yes, but if you have pending grants while the New Innovator Award is made, that's fine. However, if you receive an R01 or equivalent grant while before the New Innovator Award is made, you're no longer eligible.
Okay, so does the NIH Director's New Innovator Award remove your early stage investigator status?
So yes, the New Innovator Award is considered an R01 equivalent. So it would be considered your first significant award from the NIH, and therefore it would remove your early stage investigator status. So that is something to consider when you apply.
Are projects in behavioral and social sciences welcome, and are they competitive? Is there a bias in their awarding rates?
Yes, so yes, we welcome any topic relevant to the NIH mission, and we are always looking to expand our portfolio and the research that we support. So as Ravi mentioned during his presentation, you should not be discouraged if you're looking through past funded research and don't see things specifically in your area of research. We are always trying to expand and diversify our portfolio, so we work hard on doing that, so please do not be discouraged. We welcome all diverse science and strongly encourage applications from behavioral and social sciences. As for a bias, it's difficult to figure out the exact topics that are represented in our application pool, but some preliminary analyses that we've run do not show a difference in the percentage of behavioral and social science applications and their awarding rate. But once again, we're always trying to increase the diversity within our portfolio and welcome applications from those topics.
How do you know if the project is suitable for the award? What is meant by the criterion suitability for the award?
Yes. So when we talk about suitability for this award, what we're really talking about is we're asking if your proposed research could be funded in another NIH, more traditional NIH funding mechanism like the R01, if it could be funded there just as easily. So what we're looking for are really these innovative kind of these leaps and bounds in science. We're not looking for the more incremental science that's more typical in R01. So when we're asking about suitability, we're really looking and asking, is this really high risk research? Would this likely get thrown out of a traditional R01 review? And what's the potential impact? Is it going to be a high impact if it succeeds? So these are the types of questions that we're asking when we are looking for whether or not your project's suitable for this award.
And with respect to many different things that are eligible and groups that we encourage, someone asked, do you encourage applications from minorities and underrepresented groups?
Absolutely, yes. As we're mentioned, we really are trying to diversify our program, and that includes, we also like to diversify the demographics of the people that apply to this award. We actually included language in our funding opportunity stating that we really strongly encourage women and others from underrepresented groups to apply to this program. and that we hope you do, and also trying to diversify sciences that are represented. So please, yes, we do encourage women and underrepresented groups to apply.
Is clinical research underrepresented in the program? Are clinical applications competitive?
Yes, so we typically don't have many clinical trials that have clinical research that's applied to the program. However, clinical research is welcome. And we welcome clinical research, but we also recognize that there are some technical and conceptual risks that can be associated with these highly innovative projects. And clinical research must, balance these risks with risks to human subjects. So because of that, if you are interested in proposing clinical research for the New Innovator Award, we encourage you to reach out to the most scientifically relevant NIH institute or center for some guidance on kind of navigating what is expected for a clinical trial, like how to address some of the issues. So just, I guess, back up first. If you are given a New Innovator Award, your award will actually be transferred to the most scientifically relevant NIH institute or center, so that they will administer the award, and they will provide a program officer for you at that institute. And because these awards are transferred, your award would have to abide by those institutes' guidelines and policies. And so that's why we're saying that if you're going to submit something in clinical research, it's best practice for you to actually reach out to probably the most relevant scientifically relevant NIH institute or center to get some guidance on what you will need, what their policies and regulations are ahead of time. But that being said, all in all, yes, please, we do welcome clinical research.
And just one last thing on eligibility, this one came through. So if you were a co-I on a grant but not a PI, does that preclude you from applying if it's an R01 type grant?
No, if you are a collaborator, a contractor, co-investigator on an R01 or R01 equivalent award, it does not strip your early stage investigator status. Only if you are listed as a multi-PI or a PI on an R01 or equivalent grant, then that would strip away your early stage investigator status. Shrikant brought this up, but I'll just reiterate, a really good practice is for you to go onto your ERA Commons account, like right now, and look at your early stage investigator status. There's a line there that will say either yes, you are eligible, or no, you are not. And if you think that you should be eligible, but you're getting the no on there, then you should look and see what's missing from your profile and update it accordingly. And as Shrikant said, please make sure that you have that yes ESI status checked off before you submit your application. So check your ERA Commons profile right now, make sure that you have that status correct on there.
Okay.
Maybe not right now, maybe after the webinar, but do it soon. All right, are there any other questions about eligibility before we move on to the next topic? Or Lyle? Okay, excellent. All right.
Maybe a note that we will update the questions and answers in the web page. We will add any other. Yeah.
In the frequently asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have any questions that aren't answered, we can address them offline. You can email our award mailboxes, and we can make sure that those questions get answered if we don't have time here.
And we'll also try to update our FAQs
Accordingly. Yeah.
on the website.
Okay, the next topic is on application and submission. And Ravi's going to head this up. So we get a lot of requests and questions about whether or not there are example applications to look at on our website.
No.
Okay, that's it.
Well, no, we don't have any sample applications, but this is something we're working on. We'll ask awardees to provide sample applications so that prospective applicants can take a look and see what has been successful before in being funded. But again, you should also keep in mind that it's a pretty flexible format that we use. So the major objective you should have in designing your application is to make sure that whatever you propose can be easily understood and appreciated by the reviewers. So new innovator applicants have been innovative in the way they formatted their applications as well. So use whatever format you think will make it easiest for you to convey compellingly what you're proposing to do.
All right. And on the application, you're asked to designate 2 areas of science. What's the purpose of these?
Yes, you may have noted in the FOA that we designate 9 broad science areas, such as neuroscience or behavioral social science research. In principle, these 9 areas span the broad mission of NIH, and as Shrikant mentioned, they're useful in the review process. We ask you to identify your application to belong to one of these 9 science areas as a primary area, another as a secondary area. The reason we request 2 areas is that a single area might be too broad in trying to assign reviewers. So by assigning a primary area and a secondary area, it helps to circumscribe the research topic a little more, and will assist in reviewers. And Shrikant.
Yeah, so as an addendum, what I want to say is when we recruit reviewers, we also ask the reviewers to identify a primary and secondary area of their expertise that will help in the matching.
So the first stage, reviewers also assign themselves to these areas.
All right. And then asking about the format of the application, we talked about this, but is it more like a standard grant or more like an essay, and why?
The format is different than a standard R01 application, and we try to, when we encourage more narrative sort of approach to this particular component of the application. The reason is that we want to get away from the mindset. One reason is that we want to get away from the mindset of standard R01 applications, not only from the mindset not only of the applicant but the reviewers. If they see an application format that's very different than the standard R01, then that helps them to keep on track that this is not an R01 application but a DP2 application. And you may have relevant to that, or we also indicate in the FOA that you should state in the application that you're not providing a detailed experimental plan like might be expected in a standard R01, and that you're not providing substantial preliminary data, and that again is to help reviewers stay on track and to keep them focused that yes, this is not an R01, this is a DP2, so they should not be expecting the same level of experimental details or supporting data.
Sorry, and relevant question. So in line with this, what has been some successful ways of conveying discrete ideas for sub-projects for the award, knowing that you're discouraged from including specific aims?
Right. Yeah, as Lyle said, there are no specific aims. So most people frame their application as having a single overarching objective that they wish to achieve in the project period. And then to achieve that overarching objective, they may articulate a few things that they need to accomplish along the way. They might call them objectives or sub-objectives. But there are different ways to frame the application. Shrikant might have some additional insights.
Yeah, basically that's all I can think of, that what Ravi just mentioned. In addition, it always helps to highlight the main foci of these applications, which is why you're doing that, how impactful it is going to be to move the field, how paradigm shifting it is. Those are some of the things that you need to help the reviewer get a sense of, and also the level of innovation. What do you bring to the table that would be considered highly innovative?
All right. And where in the application should you address scientific rigor, transparency, and reproducibility?
That should all be in the essay portion, the 10-page research strategy component. And as we've said before, that be sure in this essay that you include rigor and transparency elements, such as if you're using human or animal subjects, that you will include sex as a biological variable, that you do describe an estimate of the numbers of subjects you'll need, that you've done some sort of power analysis to substantiate the need for the numbers you propose.
And it's not like you need to have a separate paragraph on rigor and reproducibility. It can be submerged within the essay itself. I mean, you talk about the rigor of the prior research, which is basically what forms the basis of your research, and including the previous published articles, or cite other articles, or your own work, preliminary data if you have any. And those are things, rigor of prior research. And second is scientific rigor, that is, even though you do not provide detailed experimental plan, be sure to provide enough of an experimental plan that will help the reviewers assess the feasibility of your project.
Right. So some people mistakenly give all the animal and human subjects details in the animal and human subject sections of the application, but you should be sure in the essay itself that you provide some estimate of numbers and that you'll use sex as a biological variable. People have been dinged in the past in review for relegating all that sort of information in the human or animal subject section.
So to reiterate what was said before, please adhere to the NIH compliance policies, and just make sure that you go through the details before you submit the application.
And to riff off what Shrikant just said about experimental plan. So although we don't ask for a detailed experimental plan or much supporting data, the reviewers should still have a clear sense of what it is you want to do and why you want to do it. They should be convinced that you've thought deeply about the project, that you have indeed identified what you think are the major conceptual hurdles, that you've identified potential pitfalls, that you've thought of alternate approaches, that although you don't provide many details or data, that you will pursue the research in the most robust and rigorous manner possible.
And going along with that, would the presence of preliminary data actually be counted against as innovativeness in the proposal?
No, not if you provide a modicum of data, that's totally fine. Most people do. But if you provide too much data, then the reviewers may say, oh, everything looks very feasible. It's actually better suited for an R1 than DP2.
And there's another question in relation to this, which essentially asks the same thing, but are there statistics about the proportion of the new Innovator Awards that are funded that have zero preliminary data?
I do not have any hard data on that, but I've seen, it's not that uncommon. It does occur, definitely.
All right. And there are also questions about how large of a project should be proposed, and is there a penalty for being overambitious?
Yes, there is a penalty for being overambitious. So maybe we should calibrate them. So you're, I think, encouraged to be a bit more ambitious than you might be for a conventional R01. That's certainly the case, to push the boundaries a bit more than you would for an R01. But there is a penalty for being crazy ambitious. So whatever you propose should be commensurate with the project period of about 5 years and with that level of funding.
And there's a question about if it's better to wait to apply until a research program has more preliminary results to show.
Yeah, not necessarily the case. If you have this really cool idea that you're very passionate about and you don't have much data, but you're burning to propose it and try to start pursuing it, then certainly go for it.
And then there's another question about are collaborators necessary in order for an application to be successful?
Collaborators are not necessary for an application to be successful. It's pretty common for people to include collaborators in the essay, and they should be providing complementary expertise. The focus of this award program is on the qualities of the PI, of the investigator. So even though it's fine to propose collaborators, they're not necessary. If you do propose collaborators, it should be clear to the reviewers that you're the one who's still driving the science forward, that you're the one who's really presenting the scientific agenda to be pursued.
Yes, the success of the project should not depend on the collaborators.
Right, and then more nitty-gritty, are citations allowed?
Yes, they are allowed, and they must fit within the 10-page limit of the research strategy components.
And are cover letters required?
Cover letters,
It's not mandatory, but doesn't hurt to have it.
there is no need to specify the study section, since, as Shrikant noted, all the applications go to this MOS study section. There is no need to specify an institute, since all the applications are received as Office of the Director applications.
Sorry, just real quick, one question back about collaborators that I don't think will be addressed. So is it possible to mention a collaboration with industry or biotech?
Yes, collaborators with industry and biotech is fine.
Right, can I submit 2 applications to this funding opportunity?
No, the FOA states 1 application per investigator.
Online with that, we've got 2 questions about number of applications that can be submitted. Can I apply for both DP1 and DP2 simultaneously?
Yes, you can, but the ideas that you present should not be substantially scientifically overlapping.
Are there any other questions about application and submission?
Yeah, so looks like there's some questions here regarding statistics. So some people are asking questions about percentage of discussed versus non-discussed over total applicants. Not quite sure if we have.
Yeah, 20%.
20%, approximately 20%.
Or discussed each year.
Each year.
Okay.
So even to be discussed in this program is an accomplishment. Typically, it's about 50%, but in this program, it's only 20%. And the overall success rate is about 8 to 10%.
Are investigators from liberal arts colleges encouraged to apply?
Yes, we encourage applications from all sorts of institutions. That, as long as you can do the research where you are, then that's fine.
Can we write citations in small font? Because they're only
I mean, that I would say it's your judgment call as to how small is small, but go by the NIH policies again with respect to font size. Citations are equally important, so the reviewers need to know what they are reading. If it's too small for them to read, they're not going to spend much time going through the citations.
But it's okay to not provide the full citation with all the authors. You may say
even the PMID is
right. PMID is okay, or the Smith et al. 2017.
Yeah. Whatever you think is identifiable enough for the reviewer without them having to go in search of the publication.
Okay. Great. Moving on to budget. So, Ravi, do you want to take budget, or Ellie, do you want to take budget? No? Okay. Ravi, budget?
Sure.
All right. Do I need to submit budget justification?
No. All we ask you to indicate in your application is that you want $1.5 million. we don't ask for any details beyond that, and you cannot provide any details beyond that in that there is no separate budget justification component in the application.
And what can funds be used for?
Funds may be requested for, you can use funds for personnel, your salary, people in your lab, or collaborators. You can have subcontracts or consultants that are supported through your award, supplies, equipment, and other allowable costs, as long as they conform to standard NIH policy. Those are okay. So espresso machines might not be allowed. I don't know.
Right, and can the budget include costs for collecting data in foreign countries?
Yes, you may have noted that that we do support. We have supported applications and do support awards that conduct the research abroad for data collection, epidemiology studies, and such things. All the researcher must be based at a U.S. domestic institution, however.
In line with that, we got a question about how to budget for collaborators.
It all depends on the collaborators, how extensive they are, but that's a judgment call that varies from case to case.
We talked about this before, but what does multi-year funding mean?
Multi-year funding means that all the money is, most NIH funding, you're receiving an allotment of money each year for the project period. The New Innovator Award is different in that it's multi-year funded. So it's a misleading nomenclature, but all the money is given in the first year of the award. So if you were to get an award before the application is submitted, then next August or so, you would be getting $1.5 million plus the associated indirect costs for your award, and you would have that money, so-called, in your account to spend over the project period, which would end in the 5th fiscal year of the award. So cautionary note again is, if you get the award, please be sure to spend it by the end of your project period. Any money that is not spent goes back to the U.S. Treasury. This is beyond the control of NIH or HHS. This is something that's part of the NIH U.S. public law.
And are New Innovator Awards renewable?
New Innovator Awards are not renewable. So the awardees typically transition to other sources of support, such as R01s, but you cannot renew a DP2.
Is the award transferable if I change institutions?
Yes, it's not that uncommon for awardees to change institutions. So as long as the institution is U.S. domestic.
Are there any other budget questions?
There aren't budget questions, but there are some effort questions, percent effort questions that you'd like to take in. Can you elaborate on why the 25% effort number was landed on in contrast to other NIH grant mechanisms?
This is, so in 2007, this 25% research effort was decided on just as a way to make sure that the awardees do pay sufficient attention to this particular project, but still they have the flexibility to apply for other sources of funding, again, because this is not a renewable award, and the awardees are encouraged, if not expected, to seek other sources of support during their New Innovator project periods. And this is 25% research effort, so this is only research effort that we really calculate. It doesn't count effort towards clinical duties, administrative duties, or teaching duties. It's only research effort.
Okay. So another question with respect to budget just came in. So do you think it's appropriate to include justification for the New Innovator Award in that the budget itself is unique? So the example that was given is if you expect to spend asymmetrically throughout the course of the award, should you be making any changes in your budget to reflect that?
No, you don't need to describe how to use the money in the project credit, again, just $1.5 million, and you can, the reviewers don't really pay attention to your burn rate for funds during the project period.
And last thing that came in on efforts, would applying for more than 25% FTE be looked down upon?
No, not at all. Many people do request higher percent effort, and that's totally fine. The minimum is 25%, but people go up to 75, 80, or if their institutions allow it even higher. That's totally fine.
Good.
All right, moving on to review. So Shrikant, you're up.
The past times.
How do you select reviewers?
Yeah, sure.
How do I select reviewers? That's a good question.
I wait all night. Pray a lot.
So it's based on, again, it's basically encompassing all the science areas. So it's based on experience from the prior review rounds, prior years where we have used reviewers, and also what kind of applications we receive, the percentage of applications that we receive in each of the 9 different broadly defined areas. So based on that, we also have a database where we have used reviewers in the past, and we tend to that they are happy to come back, and we are happy to hear that they want to come back to review these applications because they feel that this program is a wonderful program to review.
And may I request to exclude a specific reviewer with whom I have a conflict of interest?
Yes, you may. You can, but depends on what the justification is for the recusal of that reviewer or exclusion of that reviewer. There should be a clear, solid justification.
Is it okay to contact previous new Innovator reviewers to review my application prior to submitting?
No. Answer is no.
Is it allowed for me to send updates such as accepted manuscripts relevant for this application after the application submitted and before the review committee meeting?
No, as clearly stated in the RFA. Again, prior to submission and even after submission, please have the RFA PDF on the desktop and refer to it every now and then. It is very clear. We stated that no post-submission materials are allowed, unless it is something related to natural causes.
Like a natural disaster.
Natural disasters like we did have a hurricane a couple of years back. Texas and Florida were affected, so applications from those schools had to be considered under that law.
All right, and from under the investigator review criterion, what constitutes an ongoing record of accomplishments that have advanced their field?
So one thing is your publication record, obviously, and one of the things that Ravi had referred to, which is your record of coming up with paradigm-shifting ideas or something out of the ordinary in the past during your training, or how successful you have been until this point.
But you really don't need to publish in Cell Science or Nature to be competitive with this program.
Absolutely. Your H indices are not looked into.
And what will reviewers focus on most?
Impact, innovation, and how successful the project would be completed by you, whether it would be successfully completed by you, whether you have a record as a researcher to be able to complete that project and use the $1.5 million usefully.
And are reapplications given different consideration than first-time applicants?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't even have a record of which ones are reapplications, so neither do I or the panel have an idea as to which ones are reapplications.
Right. So you can submit, if you're not successful in an attempt, you can submit to the program again, and it can be substantially the same idea, maybe suitably refined, but it's always designated as a new application. There is no record of any, there should be no record of any past submission in your application. So you should not refer to any previous submission in your repeat submission. If you do refer to a previous application, then that's grounds for administrative withdrawal. So please do not refer to any previous application. And it's quite common for people to submit multiple times before being successful.
All right. Any other questions about review?
It's very specific, so we should probably just stand it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Did we miss any other questions that came in while we're doing this?
Check my larger list. I mean, are proposals funded by Common Fund or institutes?
Oh, that's a good question.
So the question is, are proposals funded by the Common Fund or by the institutes? The answer is both. Most of the awards are funded by the Common Fund, but we do invite the opportunity for the institutes to support applications of their choice.
And every year they pick up something.
And every year they do, as Ellie said, every year they do pick up some awards.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending this webinar. Once again, this will be posted on our website if you have further need to refer back to it. And thank you, Lyle, for putting this all together. Appreciate that a lot, and moderating all the questions there. All right. Good luck on your application.
Bye.
People are still dropping their questions.
Oh.
Oh, thank you so much. It was one of the last ones.
There was a question about page limits.
Should I stop recording?
Yeah.
Feel like